So welcome to our weekly conference. Our teachings here at the Shala have been on breath, which is the foundational or the foundation of our Ashtanga practice, is our breathing. And we've been focusing the last few weeks in particular on our inhales and oxygenating our bodies more and our brains and really breathing bigger into life. And so as much as we've talked about breathing more on our mats, we're also talking about breathing more in our life and sort of some of the metaphors or some of the things that happens when we're breathing deeper, both physiologically and also emotionally for us, which is very much in line with all the teachings we've been doing on the vayus, so the currents that we create within, and then also the chakras, which is sort of the emotional evolution or the spiritual evolution as we get those wheels moving with the breath, with the prana, how it helps us in these different specific arenas in our life. So this last couple weeks we've been talking about the benefits of oxygen and getting more oxygen into our system, and we've been talking specifically about where in our practice we're not getting enough inhale, we're not getting enough of that good oxygen coming in. And last week we said it's for many of us in our transitions. So as we move from extended angle to twisted triangle, I notice a lot of students are holding their breath or just rushing into the exhale and twisting. And then I also notice for myself and for all of you when we transition into seated poses, that jump through should be an inhale, and a lot of times there's a dead silence, right? And we're just holding our breath. And then once we kind of situate ourselves, then we take a big inhale into the pose. So as we advance in our practice, I always tell my students this, we always think advancing in our practice means I'm getting more flexible, or I'm getting more strong, and now I can drop back, and now I can hold my headstand. But advancing in our practice, if Patabi Joyce was here, he would tell us, is advancing in mastering our breathing. That is an Ashtanga practice. It's breath-based practice, breath and movement, breath in asana. So this week I wanted you guys to think about where within your own practice have you been noticing that you could increase your inhale? Where have you noticed that your breathing is a little bit shorter or you're holding your breath? Where are you noticing it, May?
In twists.
In twists. So, and that's very universal, you know. So again, for us, we get so excited when we can finally wrap in a twist, or, you know, feel like we're getting a little bit further back. But if the breath is constricted, or if we're stopped our breath, or it's really shallow, then that's not the full pose for us. So, kind of deepening that. And in particular, I don't know about you, May, but I notice it is the inhale that's more challenging. We can like twist and go, but then the inhale's like. And I feel like it just gets up barely to the chest. And so we have to really stretch a yama, that inhale out in the twist. And maybe sometimes what I would suggest is getting into the fullness of the twist a little bit later in the 4 breaths. Like really breathing in deep as you start to move into it, and then maximum on the 4th breath is one way that you could kind of work on that one. Anybody else, where have you guys noticed that your breathing is a little more shallow or you're holding your breath? Same for you, Yasmin, you said the twisting. Marachasana C in particular. Yeah, so you were saying in second series, Kapotasana, and really deep back bending, or in the fish pose, Matsyasana. That's true, and that's a really powerful one too for the chakras to get that breath moving. Jeannie was saying inverted poses for her, some of the inverted, then when we pull it in. I know I tell you guys, in a classroom, I can hear usually when you guys are breathing good and Surya Namaskara, the whole room is alive with breath. It's such a beautiful sound. And then we get to these places like twists and inverted poses, and all of a sudden there's like this silence, you know, we barely hear the breathing. Or what I heard a lot in the Confluence, when I was teaching at the Confluence, I was teaching 3 hours Mysore, is again this heavy exhale and this barely audible inhale. You know, and so when I would come around and adjust people, oftentimes people say, I didn't even know you were there. I think it was you, but I couldn't see you. And I'm like, well, if someone was telling you to breathe, it was me. You know, so I would just gently be adjusting someone and saying, deep inhale. And exhale. And then the thing that we've been working on for this whole past year is really getting some breath into that middle thoracic area and getting more extension through here physiologically, physically, by getting out of this and into this. It gets more breath and more of that current moving as well that we've been talking about. So also just reminding you guys to pay attention. So our homework last week and the week before was for you guys to start using this deep inhale when you wake up in the morning, if you guys have been doing that. Been getting lots of good feedback on you guys. The moment you wake up, that's like a snap of a finger, you start your, and just notice how it sets your day. Notice how it sets your mood. Notice your mind when you begin your day with 10 big breaths. And then I was saying, okay, now do that throughout the day. Do it when you're driving. Do it when you're walking up the stairs to your car. Do it when you're about to make a phone call. Do it when you're preparing dinner. Anytime you start really bringing more oxygen into your day and into your life, you're going to notice, we said 2 things last week. You're going to notice more energy. You're going to notice maybe an elevation in your mood. And for me, the other thing I want to add to that, and this is sort of the teachings for this week as well, is you're going to notice you're thinking more. So most of the time we're in autopilot, right? And we're just doing day, and we're maybe breathing shallow or not breathing that well at all. But the mind is also running all over the map, and we're unaware of it. Really? But all of a sudden, if you start really, it's like on our yoga mats, when we start really focusing on the breath and getting better at the breath, we quiet the mind, right? Or we start to really observe where the mind is. So for me, the same thing has been happening throughout my days. As I get into my breathing more, I realize where my mind is more. And I'm going to finish conference today with a quote for this week, which is truly one of my all-time favorite quotes by a Sufi poet named Hafiz. He said, when the wait, because I've memorized it, I have to say it. When all the desires are distilled, you will cast just 2 votes, to love more and to be happy. And I chose that quote for this week because I really believe if you guys are inhaling in your life more, and if you're breathing deep more and more, there are 2 inevitable things that result from that. And I think more love, because we're opening the heart wider, right? More love comes from that. And also more happiness. So as we know, like rather than living this way closed and scared and all these things, we start living big and breathing big. It automatically brings us those 2 things, which are 2 of truly the greatest gifts in life, is love and happiness.